But you're so right, Ruth. Sometimes it's just the little things that mean so much. It might have felt like a big day
Absolutely.
out, but she at the end of the day just said, "Gosh, I haven't, my dad just hadn't stopped smiling all day. I could just see the joy in his face, being back in a familiar surrounding, enjoying something, a sport that he absolutely used to love and clearly still does love." And then she was just about to walk out the gate with her dad, and she came back and said to me, "And just one other thing, the thing that has meant the most to me today is that I heard my dad say my name for the first time in a long time."
Yeah. Oh, Fiona, thank you for talking about Christmas with me. And for those of you joining us, it is lovely to see you again for our roundup session. I can't believe we're at our roundup session. Our first year of understanding dementia better is complete. And I'm really lucky today to be able to do this session with our CEO, Fiona, who will introduce herself in a second. But for us, we're going to be really thinking about gratitude and reflection. Now, as an organisation, we've had an incredible year. We've been incredibly lucky. And on a personal note, just through these sessions alone, I've worked with some amazing people out there and learned so, so much. So honestly, I am incredibly grateful for those opportunities. But I thought it'd be a really nice time for us just to actually talk about, that this time of year, we know it's not easy for everybody, but actually thinking about those little wins and us sharing with you what some of our little wins across the year are. So I'm going to hand over to Fiona to introduce herself before we make a start.
Oh, thank you, Ruth. Well, it's lovely to be with you today. I am CEO, and I've been CEO of this very special organisation, Dementia Venture, for the last 4.5 years. It's a cause that's very close to my heart. Both my parents had dementia, and that was across 17 years consecutively. Um, and so, yes, I don't think I ever thought I would be running a dementia charity, but to have something that focuses on what we do, because actually I also have a love of the outdoors, and actually it was my dad who really gave me that love. So to have something that brings the two together, well, I'm pretty grateful for that. But it is lovely to be part of this. Thank you.
Thank you. So before we start, just a little bit of housekeeping. As always, please share your comments in the chat with us and any questions. If you've got any questions for us, we're here. We'll answer them the best that we can do. But thinking about any comments, we'd love to hear your little wins as we go through, because it is those sometimes when life's a little bit tough and things are a bit challenging that actually, when we do remember those smaller wins, they can make a real difference and keep us going. So, as the year comes to a close, I think really just reflection can help us really understand what we've learned, the things we've achieved. And it hasn't always been obvious, has it? I know certainly in this role, when I look back, when I start to think about those little changes we've made for people, running the Understanding Dementia Better sessions and our mood and motivation sessions are just amazing. And it's those little stories that really bring those wins home for me. But ultimately, before we do anything else, I just want to give a quick shout out to Right at Home, because we wouldn't be able to do any of these sessions without their sponsorship. And actually, we're incredibly lucky to have some amazing funders and sponsors who we'll talk about throughout today. But the People's Postcode Lottery players, without you, we wouldn't exist, would we, Fiona? So, a
It's
real
probably
shout
true.
out there.
Yes.
A real shout out there, definitely. We hear so many like stories of resilience, growth, understanding as we go through our year. And actually, I'm going to start with you, Fiona, and ask, what's something that you've experienced this year in your role, like with our organisation, that's really made you go, oh wow. And it doesn't need to be those big things, does it?
It certainly doesn't. And, I think it can be tough out there, whatever circumstances we find ourselves in. Certainly the charity world
Mhm.
has found it very tough, and we've been no exception. But, as I look back on the year, through all the kind of ups and downs of it all, it's just been, I think I've been so touched by the sheer dedication of our team, and the fact that actually, even when things are difficult, the team have rallied and said, "Okay, what can we do to try and improve
Mm,
something, or, make something work better, or try something new and prepared to take that risk. Um, and certainly our volunteers. I mean, oh my goodness, they are phenomenal, and they give
100%.
good feedback, and sometimes it's constructive criticism, but there's also some really lovely stories for them from them, what it's meant for them, what they've seen, what they've observed, and it's those things I find, Ruth. I don't know about you, but it's those stories that keep coming back, and that's what keeps us going.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And I think actually, when I started to think about this, because it's quite an odd concept, isn't it? Okay, what's been good in the year? And, there's a lot of talk about reflection and at this time of year. And, like many others, I actually find this time of year a little bit challenging. There's lots of memories of, people who maybe aren't at our Christmas dinner table anymore. And sometimes how our Christmas dinner table feels a little bit different. But actually, when I thought back over the year, for me, I think one of the particular stories that made me think actually that was a good day for me was we did an amazing mood and motivation session, and on those sessions we always encourage people to talk, and it's a tough subject, it's a really tough subject, and we had two carers both who were finding things extremely challenging, and actually they networked with each other, seeing them
Yes.
build each other up. Now from my perspective, yes, I do have a personal story behind why I work here, as we all do, but
Mm.
actually enabling two people to realize, do you know what? We're not alone. We're not on our own doing this. There's so many others. And we didn't wave a magic wand. We didn't make any circumstances better, but we saw two people really be there for each other, network. And I was like, actually, that was a really good day for me. And I know one of our green letter days, that's not a project I'm involved in, but I know you're very involved in that one, aren't you? And there's, one of my favourite stories was when you were telling me a little bit earlier about the lady and her husband playing golf. I wonder
Oh,
if
that
you could
was
share
that
that
was
one, because that is
superb. Yeah,
heartwarming. Yeah.
absolutely. And yes, actually, a couple of things have just come to mind there, because you're so right. It's often when people carers come together, it's the peer support. Um, and actually, just recently, we've taken away four families with young children, and it was the stories of the peer support that came just at that level, let alone at the adult level, because the kids
Mm,
can feel pretty isolated too. And yeah, when and one of the lovely things that's happened this year, and I do look back on that, just with huge gratitude actually, is that we've been able to get these 1 day mini adventures off the ground, which we're calling Green Letter Days. And that straddles all sorts of sort of activities, including sport. But you're right, we had this. We've run about three of these days, getting people back onto the golfing green. And so
mm,
we had couples coming to one of those. But there was one couple actually where the wife decided, do you know what? I'm going to stay at home, just give myself a little bit of space and a break. And I'll send another family member with my husband. Turned out that the husband, who has dementia, actually in his career, he'd been in golf club management, and played golf, of course. And there he was getting back onto the green. He had lost his confidence completely about in terms of playing golf since his diagnosis of dementia. So I think
mm.
was probably a little bit apprehensive about coming away on the day. His wife wrote to us, and this is one of the letters that sort of stick in my mind, afterwards, and said, "Oh my goodness, my husband came back from that day just absolutely beaming. He had found his confidence again. He remembered he could play golf. It could still happen." Um, and she just said, "This has just given me a phenomenal time out as well."
Yeah.
And there was a real
Yeah.
little PS at the end of it, and said, "By the way, my house is so much tidier and cleaner now." So,
And I think, do you know what? That brings me on to a couple of comments that we've received in the chat, and they're really valid. So Evan said to us that he sometimes feels guilty celebrating the little victories, and I think on this journey of dementia, certainly in my role, we often see as, supporting somebody, you do feel that guilt when you do something for yourself or when it is only the little wins that you're celebrating. But do you know what? You absolutely mustn't feel guilty, because if we don't start seeing the good and seeing the positives, life becomes really, really tough. And Kathleen's actually added to that because she's popped and just getting through the day sometimes feels like a win. Is that normal? And I've had many a conversation with people. I'm like that. Have you got dressed this morning? Yes, I have. Well done. That's a win, And I sit here at the moment, and there are times where I do think, okay, what is the win? Is it that I've just got dressed? Is it that we've made a cup of coffee and we've got through breakfast? Because some days life's a little bit like that, isn't it? And particularly on that dementia journey, it is those little things. Getting through the day is a massive win for sure.
Sure. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
absolutely. So Ian has asked us, what days out do we have planned for 2026? Are there any
Oh,
more days at Lord's? Because we did do
oh.
some days at Lord's, didn't we? Which again were an awful lot of fun.
They were so much fun. Thank you, Ian, for asking that question. We have indeed, honestly, our huge thanks to Middlesex County Cricket Club for helping us with that on our range of green letter days. Someone was also asking what type of days, whether it's golf, it's tennis, it's picnics. It's just days in in beautiful gardens. It's a whole range of things. Days out on the water as well. Ian, yes, we have certainly got more cricket days and not at
Mm.
Lord's, but we're hoping to extend that to other cricket clubs as well. And am I allowed a little story here, Ruth?
Please,
Thank
yeah,
you.
that'd be
I was
lovely.
just thinking because from our last cricket day, we had an amazing number of people that turned up despite the transport strikes in London that day. So it was incredible. Um, and some people were coming for the first time. Some people were revisiting. We had a dad and daughter. The dad had been last year, and the daughter said, I just saw the impact it had on my dad. So I thought I must come along and see what it's all about. Big expectations, what it going to be all about. Um, but you're so right, Ruth. Sometimes it's just the little things that mean so much. It might have felt like a big day
Absolutely.
out, but she at the end of the day just said, "Gosh, I haven't, my dad just hadn't stopped smiling all day. I
Mm,
could just see the joy in his face, being back in a familiar surrounding, enjoying something, a sport that he absolutely used to love and clearly still does love." And then she was just about to walk out the gate with her dad, and she came back and said to me, and just one other thing, the thing that has meant the most to me today is that I heard my dad say my name for the first time in a long time.
yeah.
And it was
And
amazing.
that's a lot, isn't
A
it?
day like
Yeah.
that had clearly triggered things deep down in his memory. And that was the small thing. And that was her biggest win that day.
And I think Christmas is about three things, isn't it? So, it is that reflection of the past. And we would always encourage people to see those little wins and the big wins, because the big wins are equally as important. I think we've also covered the future because looking forward is really key. But actually, what I'd really like to do is pick up the present because the present's tough. There's a lot of heavy feelings. There's a lot of reminiscence of what was and maybe what isn't now. And I think as much as both Fiona and I are, incredibly lucky to sit where we sit and, we do look at what the wins are, we're also very aware of the challenges that those face. And I think my message to any of you out there right now listening to this, thinking, actually, this is really hard and I don't know what the wins are, is please do be kind to yourself. You know, if Christmas is becoming too much, it's okay to say no. We can't make every invite. It's okay to make the Christmas lunch smaller, make it work for you. That is okay. Because, like Greg has put in the comments, that actually it's hard to remember positive moments when everything feels heavy. And it really, really is. And sometimes the best thing we can do to create those positive moments is actually think, I can't make it what it was. It can't be how it used to be, but this is how I need to make it now. And that's okay. And, having really open conversations with friends, families, support networks about that will enable you to do that. So don't be afraid to have those conversations. People, when they say, can we do anything to help? think about how that would be meaningfully for you and the person you're supporting. And if that is, actually, we'd love to see you for Christmas, but for us, that now looks like a quick cup of tea and a mince pie. It doesn't mean a Christmas dinner. It doesn't mean a carol singing event anymore. That's great. Do that because that will create those little wins for you. And it is when you see those smiles or you have that 5 minutes to yourself or you can take that deep breath that actually those are the wins that become really key for sure. Would you agree, Fiona?
Oh, completely. It is a little, because sometimes the toughness just seems relentless, isn't it? And I think
Yeah.
actually sometimes it's just a bit of communication with somebody else, that
Yeah.
actually just can bring a lightness to the moment, a conversation, whether that's to somebody in a local shop that you're talking with, or somebody you see in the street, or as you say, Ruth, just inviting a neighbor around and saying it's going to be simple, but come over
Absolutely.
anyway. And
Yeah.
actually different people coming in and joining in the conversation. That's amazing what that can sometimes trigger. I was amazed with my parents. They got used to me being with
Mm.
them, much of the time, or going to visit them in the care home in the latter days. But friends or other people that hadn't been, with them very often
Yeah.
would come in, and oh my goodness, I think it just again triggers old memories, and suddenly I'd see
Definitely.
my mum or my dad really, spark up again. And
Yeah.
it was lovely, and I got
Absolutely.
pleasure out of that, seeing that.
Absolutely. But as well, remember, because it's also a very lonely time of year for people, there is
Yeah.
always places to seek help. We will pop some details of those together at the end of today's conversation. And they will be national helplines that you can just reach out to if things become really, really tough. So I am going to start rounding today's session up because I think it's a lovely session to be able to reflect. And we've been incredibly lucky to do the work that we do. But thinking about moving forward for next year, we know the dementia space is huge. We know we've got a lot of work to do, and we're not going to stop doing that work. So, but in order for us to do that work, one of my biggest thanks does go out to our supporters and our fundraisers. And actually, we have the People's Postcode Lottery and they're our main funder, and we can't thank them enough. But for every single one of you, those individual gives make such a difference, like Fiona touched on earlier, our volunteers, we couldn't do it without you. So every little give does make a huge difference, doesn't it, Fiona? And it does enable
Oh.
us to do that work.
And sometimes it's kind of the gifts in kind. Um, we've just doing an appeal that went out a couple of weeks ago. Somebody gave us the stamp, literally physically the stamps to put on the envelopes. I can't tell
Yeah.
you. I mean, it just meant so much. And actually, I'm also really struck by some of the individuals uh, who've given us, an amazing amount of support. But so often it's not just because, oh, they think, this charity is a good cause or something like that. It's
Mm.
because actually they've benefited from something, or listening to something that you and the team have offered Ruth, or they may have come away on a green letter day or on a
Mm.
holiday, but actually they then are really motivated to give forward. They actually want somebody
Yeah.
else to benefit in a similar way. So we are so grateful, well, to all our donors, as you say, whether
Yeah.
they're organizations, individuals, or anyone that's just been able to actually support us in kind, financially.
Absolutely.
Fantastic.
Absolutely. It's going to be an amazing year. We've
I
got
think it
lots of
is.
amazing partnerships coming
Yeah.
up. We've got having lots of brilliant conversations. But in the meantime, for you guys out there, we will be starting our support sessions first thing back in January. So come and join us. Do reach out for help if you need it. And we look forward to working with you again next year. Thank you for joining us today. We do wish you all a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Take care. Bye bye.
Bye bye.